it's Roll for Crit, and we are here today to review the third entry in the Forbidden series from Matt Leacock, Forbidden Sky, Height of Danger. Of course, following Forbidden Island and Forbidden Desert, this is another cooperative game in which you're going to be working together to not survive an island or a desert, but in fact, the sky itself.
Yes, you are on like an ancient platform, and your goal is to get a circuit running to repair a rocket to visit these ancient ruins. But there is a storm approaching, and you gotta get out of there fast before it's too late.
Yeah, it's very ominous. You can see from the box art, it has this very cool style of these like dark purple clouds and atmosphere and wind. And you've got an actual three-dimensional plastic rocket ship, and you're actually building circuits, kind of. So how does it play?
So the way the game works is we have it set up already a little bit, but you're going to start on this central platform here, and you're going to be moving around, placing tiles, and making sure you match at least one of these little wires around, and which will have place different things on the field. Your goal is to make a complete circuit using those wires there, depending on your difficulty. So for example, normal is like one big base, two of these bigger circles, three of the smaller ones, and three of those lightning rods.
Yeah, so the way it works is literally, these are actually magnetized, and that one's kind of long. There's some different lengths of them. You would, as an action, do that, and they're connected, and those are actually stuck together.
So you need to make sure that you make a continuous loop from one end of this rocket platform to the other, containing all these pieces. You can contain more if you want, but it needs a minimum of those.
Yeah, you can't just be like, oh, I connected to the rocket, I'm done. You have to follow the card.
Of course, there are other things. In addition to completing circles to allow you to place these pieces, such as that, there are gear tokens, like the one you have there, which allow you to draw from the gear deck. These are pretty much powerful items for you to use, such as the jetpack, your favorite, which allows you to take someone else and go to a completely other space regardless of how far away it is, which is very nice. There's other things that will help you gain health or repair the rope, which we'll get to shortly.
Each character has kind of two health meters. One is your actual health, and the other one is your rope, which is what's keeping you from falling out into the abyss forever.
Yeah, you're apparently 7,000 feet in the air, and you don't think you can survive that distance. But of course, if you played any cooperative game, especially the Forbidden games,
or Pandemic,
bad things will happen
at the end of each round.
And that happens with the Storm deck. Now, this is the Storm Tracker. If it ever hits above 5, this red bar, Storm gets too intense and you all die. But it tells you pretty much how many of these Storm cards you're going to draw. They have many different effects. For example, there's High Winds. This will actually push you around the board. So if it pushes you in the direction of the current wind, which would be up here, but if it was down, you go down a space. If you can't go that way because there's a cloud gap, which there is weird gaps around here, or because you're at the edge of a map, your rope takes damage. Take too much rope damage, you die. If one person dies, everyone loses. So this isn't a cooperative and I'm winning kind of game.
No, you're all in it together.
In addition, the wind can change direction. There's one for each direction, clockwise and counterclockwise. This lightning can strike. So lightning will actually hit these lightning rods, and if you are connected by either the printed wire on the tiles or by the wires that you will be installing, you're going to take physical damage because you get shocked.
So you really ought to be looking out for that, because every single turn, there's a pretty good chance, depending on where you are, that one of those two things will affect you in some way.
Right, and there are places, for example, you're actually on the place that has a Faraday cage.
That's right.
I believe it's called.
Yeah.
So you can actually prevent yourself from getting electric damage. I'm on a wind barrier spot, so that would mean I wouldn't be unaffected by the High Winds card. But there is also Storm Intensifying. There are a couple copies on them. One of them tells you to reshuffle the discard back in the deck. Pretty much that moves this up. And as it slowly grows, you're going to be drawing more, which means it'll be going faster and faster as you go up.
So yeah, it's a classic kind of style of these games where it's challenging. There's a lot of ways that you can die and only one way that you can win, which is, again, completing that circuit with the rocket ship and taking yourselves back home.
And when you do, there is a fun little reward for you, knowing that you completed that circuit. But make sure you complete the circuit with everyone at the rocket, because if you complete it and someone isn't at the rocket leaves without anyone.
Yeah, you gotta be there. You can't leave anyone behind. That's a no-no.
Leave no man behind.
Exactly. Or woman, I say.
That's true.
I'm very progressive.
So yeah, this does definitely fit in that. I think the basic cooperative game of the Forbidden games, which I think is great because I think it's a perfect addition to its library and not too difficult. So it's a little bit more, I think, than Island to me.
Well, it's definitely, you can make it as hard as you want it to be.
Right.
Because like they have different levels of how you can play. And so they have a novice level. If you're playing this with younger kids, you can play. I mean, certainly, I think the games in general from Island to Sky get progressively more complex. But this is about pandemic level, I would say, in terms of complexity. So it's not much harder than that. As you could certainly introduce it to newer gamers.
It does have the, I think, not as bad as Island, which I have discovered you could lose in turn 1. There can be moments where, like, we're great as long as we don't draw, like, 3 lightning strikes or something in a row, and that's what happens. Or a wind and then the lightning strikes, like... So it does have that randomness that, I mean, many of these basic cooperative games do.
Certainly all the Matt Leacock games kind of have that same thing going on, I think. And it's the kind of thing that you got to prep for it. And I think for a co-op game, as we always say, you want that challenge because you're all working together. Everybody also has their own unique ability. For instance, like the medic can heal people.
Yeah, just like in the other Forbidden games.
Just like in the other Forbidden games. I thought the abilities were really cool. And I thought they all felt pretty balanced. I didn't feel like there were any that were not helpful. And in fact, one thing we found was a lot of the gear cards sort of work as lesser versions of these powers. So if you don't have those people around, like if you don't have a medic, there's still ways you can heal yourselves, which is nice of them to do.
And the teleporting pads, I think, are such a nice addition because it really does help make it much harder for you to strand yourself.
Yeah, because it can be important to try to get around to places and do things. In general, I thought it does a really good job of tying the theme to the mechanics. It really feels like I'm putting a wire down. I'm putting a wire down. You know, everything's tied to that, which is cool.
In addition, for me, like when you see like something like a toy rocket sticking out and stuff that isn't outside of like just having an army of miniatures, you think sometimes it's like, oh, it's a little gimmicky and stuff. But the gimmick of completing the circuit is actually really fun and interesting because it's not simply just, oh, put the wires around. We had to think like, how do we make a decent circle so the wires fit right? Like we had a moment where like we needed to put another component, not because we needed to finish the piece, but the wires like couldn't reach. So we needed like a middle bar or something.
Yeah, even though the flow of the game feels very similar to the other Forbidden games, that puzzle is very unique. It's a very different kind of way of thinking that, I did really enjoy. And that toy gimmick aspect of it, it's something that GameRight actually commented on, how they kind of had a policy of not having electronic stuff involved in their games. And they made an exception for this one because of how interestingly it was executed.
Right, and like I said, it's fun. And because it happened, the gimmicky fun part happens at the end when you win, it's like a fun reward, which is really great. It's not simply just like, okay, we get it while we're playing the game. We didn't really need that.
We're being vague about it. You know, we don't want to spoil it. You may be able to figure out exactly what happens. But at any rate, if you like the Forbidden games or Pandemic, I think this is definitely a pretty easy one to recommend. It's something you definitely enjoy. Now, our dark and ominous crits and misses for Forbidden Sky. Crits. The toy-like components and electronic aspects, especially relating to how the game ends if you're successful, are really fun, don't feel too gimmicky, actually add a lot to the game.
It does have a great game mechanic, and the toy is just almost like just a fine reward.
It's a relatively simple game compared to other more hardcore titles, but you can vary the challenge as much as you like with the different difficulty settings. The character abilities feel well balanced and important, so you feel like you have something to contribute no matter who you're playing as.
It's time now to draw from the Storm deck and see what the misses are. This is part of the Forbidden series and feels a little derivative at times.
If you've played the other games in the series, you'll enjoy this, but it also probably won't exactly blow your mind with any new differences.
And a small but annoying little detail, the Storm deck is made of a very specific list of cards, and there's only 2 cards to change wind direction, 1 for each direction. And we found out that it seemed to keep resetting back to the same place. It would have been nice if maybe a couple other cards changed the wind direction to add some bit more complexity for that.
I think I would say this probably is my favorite forbidden game, but it's hard for me to say if you're someone who has one of the other ones, if I would tell you should also get this, because I feel like they all kind of fill the same niche.
They do all kind of feel the same. I haven't really played Desert that much, or I haven't played in such a long time, I can't remember. I have played Island a bit more.
Right.
So I remember that a little bit better. So comparing those two, I definitely think I enjoyed this one a lot more because I do think there's more of a puzzle element. And I don't know, some reason the theme makes me think like a Myst kind of.
It has the kind of the vibe of Myst a little bit, the aesthetic definitely.
And the toy aspect does, as we've constantly said, but I can't stress it, especially if you have kids, it's going to be great. It just really just makes you feel like, we won!
Yeah, if I was a kid, I would love this game so much. I mean, I still do. I do think it does enough to separate. I just think you definitely like buy this one, in my opinion, if instead of the other ones. But
it also is in a box, and I'm not a big fan of tins.
Right, box instead of a tin. Big. That's a bonus crit.
Yeah,
definitely. So Forbidden Sky, check it out. You don't really need us to tell you about it. Everybody already was anticipating this. It does deliver. Let us know in the comments if you've had a chance to play it, if you think this game should be forbidden, or if you think it soars to the sky.
Yes, let us know how you think this ranks among the forbidden games, or even just co-op games in general.
We're in land, air, and sea, and next time probably a volcano.
Oh yeah, I'm waiting for Forbidden Volcano. Very excited for that. It'll come with real lava.
I think it should. Hey, my name's Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this was a Roll for Crit review.
Don't forget to click that like button and, of course, subscribe for even more excellent videos.
I subscribed and now I'm rich.